Yo, what's poppin', guys? Sizzle here, and for those of you who don't know me, I've been a long-time, high-ranked Overwatch player, just, near the top, never at, like, the top 500 in stuff outside of OpenQ, but always in, like, GM, around GM, when I really sat down and put effort into things. And yeah, in all that time, I really haven't made a lot of educational Overwatch content. I haven't really shared a lot of the knowledge that I've gotten in this degenerate amount of playtime that I have. So that's what this video is for, as I'm slowly starting to, lose interest in the game, especially with the addition of perks and things like that. I figured I'd share all the knowledge I've gotten over time in all these hours about every hero, and show off a lot of hidden tech that isn't shown when you go and press, F1 and try to look at the character stuff. Starting off with D.Va, whenever you're using DM and use boosters, you can use them at the same time. You can also use micro missiles at the same time, and of course you can use all three at the same time to do a lot of burst damage while defense matrixing, which can be super annoying to fight and get you a lot of burst damage. The main hidden tech for Doomfist that he can cancel all of his abilities with his other abilities, which lets you do some really crazy stuff. The biggest two by far is punch into slam, where you can just punch like this, fly into slam, and get some good distance. I didn't even do that right, we still got some good distance. And then the one that everyone knows, or at least everyone should know, is slam into block right away, so that you go flying super high and you can punch off of that and just kind of do a lot of different stuff. And those aren't the only combos, but those are definitely the main two you need to know. There's a lot more you can figure out eventually. As long as Doom Block's not full, it can also block any number of damage. You can use the block D.Va bomb, charge a punch, and then kill the D.Va, which is great. As for hazard, whenever you wall climb, if you use your leap, you actually reset your wall climb, which is rarely useful, but sometimes, like this, you can use it to wall climb to places like that. The more commonly useful tech is before you slash on your leap, you can still use all of your abilities. You can see that's a normal slash with damage. You can also leap, shoot, and then slash for even more damage, and also combine that with placing a wall for the maximum insane amount of burst damage. At the end of Junker Queen's ult, she can boost off of stuff to gain a little bit of height. Mauga's pin, for some reason, has damage reductions. You can use it to live quite a lot of things, like a D.Va bomb or just random fire. And here's him dying to a D.Va bomb without using pin, just to prove it's not like a custom code. Orisa spin works like defense matrix and can absorb ultimates, which is obviously very strong, but more importantly, her fortify gets her out of pretty much every ultimate as they're active, right? It's the only ability that can get you out of Mauga's cage, just like that, after he pops it. And then there's also the fact that it can get you out of Mei ult, and other ults such as Sigma ult, and of course this nice grab right here, just as it's active, which is crazy. And I say only ability because it's the only one that on the character themselves can actually do, right? Life Weaver can also grip you out of this stuff, but Orisa can just do it with her own Fortify, which is really fun, balanced character design. It's really fun to fight as a tank, and feels very, very fair, and has kept me really playing this game for as long as I have. Ramattra's Vortex will instantly snap people down, like you can see right there on the fair, which can lead to some funny off-the-map kills. And more importantly, he can actually quick melee during Nemesis form to get quicker kills like this, right after punching, if the enemy has the right health. Because of course, if they don't have the right health, like this soldier, you just kind of stand there awkwardly and have to wait a bit for your next punch. Instead of looking around while shielding in Reinhardt, having it look like this, you can actually hold down the primary fire button to look around without actually moving your shield, and then get the jump on enemies like this. You can also cancel your swing with a fire strike, which is how you maximize your damage on Reinhardt. It is the most essential combo to know on the character, and without it you do almost no damage. And also, to extend his reach, you actually want to hit diagonally like this. You can see I hit that Bap that I couldn't hit otherwise. To do this more consistently, instead of just being super precise, you can just kind of spaz out and you'll hit them anyway and extend your range. Super useful if an enemy seems like they might be just out of range. Instead of hooking normally like this on Roadhog, you can actually hook in the opposite direction and then the direction you want to go to pull people around walls more consistently. Also, if they're on high ground, instead of hooking them just like that, you actually want to hook them and then jump to pull them to the high ground with you every single time. There's also a lot more cool stuff you can do. I made an amazing guide on Roadhog you should check out. We should go over the more in-depth and crazy hooks. Sigma's main tech is this one-shot combo, which is just rock, primary, and then melee. Will one-shot almost every squishy in the game. You can also, instead of just primary firing normally, you can primary fire and then quick melee in between. You'll actually have the exact same fire rate and just get a free quick melee. It's a really cool bonus bit of damage you can add on to your kit. Winston does more damage with his leaps depending on how close he lands to the enemy. You can see it did a solid amount of damage to the Hanzo there. You can do even more damage by quick meleeing right before you land, which will actually get cancelled, but still do the damage that the quick melee does. You can see right there. Even though I landed further away from this Hanzo, I still did more damage to him, which is obviously super great. On Wrecking Ball, you actually get your grappling hook refunded if you never go into Fireball form, so you can use it to stall in places up here like this and get free slams. You can also roll into the wall. As you roll into the wall, tap S to stop your momentum to do a nice free slam like that. It's called the wall jump. It's super inconsistent and hard to do unless you practice it a bunch. So if you plan on playing this character, you should get it down. Also watch the Yeetle guide on this character because he goes more in depth about even more tech. And the last kind of vital piece of tech is that you can actually hold the slam button to automatically slam the millisecond that you can on any character. Zarya's tech isn't anything super insane. She can just right-click the ground to boost herself up or forward a little, but it's useful for rollouts out of spawn like this, where you can see the difference quite clearly. Ashe's scope shots are quite slow and her hip fires are quite quick, but you can't really use them together super well most of the time unless you hip fire and then scope shot, which lets you do crazy burst damage just like that onto any character in the game. Bastion doesn't really have any super fancy tech. He just has his grenade jump, where his grenade can boost him forward once it's stuck to the ground. You can see it sticks to the ground there, but doesn't stick to walls, just sticks to the ground. You can use it to boost forward or backward, which lets you do fun stuff like jump over this gap, activate turret in midair, and do some crazy damage on a nice little flight. Cassidy and or McCree has two main damage reduction type of techs. First off, his roll has damage reduction for some reason, so if you roll right as you take damage, you'll have it reduced, and you can go get revenge on a tracer just like that. Second off, the start of his ult actually has damage reduction, so you can use that to survive pulse bombs. However, only the start of it has damage reduction, so don't get caught out afterward and die to something that you could live otherwise. Echo's hidden tech is actually hidden in plain sight in the hero option, so if you go to controls, change hero, go to Echo, then in Heroes and HUD, make it so you hold to fly is turned on. You can now hold to fly on Echo, and the second you stop holding the flight button, it'll stop flying, which will actually start your cooldown right away and maximize the amount of time that you'll have your flight up, so you don't waste any time. Genji's deflect can deflect melees, but it will not damage the person you deflect, it'll just negate the damage, which is pretty useful for staying alive quite a lot of the time. But beyond that, there's not too much more to it. If any of you have watched older Overwatch hidden tech and or tips and tricks videos, they'll all say to wall climb on Hanzo to maintain charge and get free picks. However, in Overwatch 2 for quite a while now, that's no longer true. It actually resets your charge whenever you wall climb. So make sure that if you want a fully charged shot, that you fully charge it after a wall climb. On Junkrat, if you throw down a concussion mine without detonating it, it will still start the cooldown, meaning you can actually have 3 concussion mines to do fun stuff like this, as long as you place them down ahead of time before a fight and wait out that cooldown. On Mei, whenever you pull up a wall, you can actually break it by pressing the wall button again, even when you're dead, which is super useful for keeping your teammates alive sometimes. Like, this Doom would not have been able to escape here if it wasn't for me breaking that wall. Whenever you're on Pharah and you just use your rocket boost, you normally go about that high, but if you shoot the ground as you rocket boost at the exact same time, you go way higher at the expense of only 20 health, which is really nothing at all. You'll regen it before it matters. And instead of just holding the fly button, if you instead slowly tap it like this, you can stay in the air for much longer on the same fuel charge, which is way greater. As you can see right here, if I just hold it, it runs out way quicker to move the same distance, which just is not super great. I'm sure we all know that on Reaper, when you go into Wraith form, it reloads your weapons, but if you didn't know, you can actually reload and then instantly cancel your reload with a teleport to actually reload when you teleport as well, which will just keep you constantly having your weapons reloaded. Soujorn has a very similar tech to Moira, where if she just tries to jump normally, she can't make a jump, but if you jump and then slide as you're landing, for some reason you get extra height and you can make jumps that you couldn't make before, which gives you access to some pretty fun and different offenses. Soldier 76 can actually sprint in the air, which gives him way more distance and speed for the exact same jumps as you can see right here. You can also combine this with his rocket jump, which you can do by right-clicking the ground and jumping at the same time to make some jumps that you couldn't otherwise. You can see that's me trying to sprint, and I don't go really anywhere on that jump. This is me trying to just rocket jump, and I can't even make it to that opening in the door. But if I go and combine the two, some real magic can happen, and you can get to some really crazy spots or get out of fights really easily by just combining them like this and getting some crazy distance. Sombra can actually hack Orisa out of ult with her normal hack, but only when she's not taking damage. So you can see when I'm out of the Orisa ult, I'm not taking damage, I can literally just hack her out of her ult for some reason. And you can use this by teleporting out of her ult and then hacking her to save your team in any team fight. Also, her EMP cancels quite a lot of ults that you'd be surprised about, like Mei ult for some reason. And also, Reinhardt's Earth Shatter, of all things, gets cancelled by EMP if you time it right, which is really annoying as a Reinhardt player, to be honest. But for some reason, it doesn't cancel stuff like Grav, which to me is quite similar to a Mei ult. It no longer cancels beat. It used to do this, and it doesn't do it anymore, so keep that in the back of your head. And it doesn't cancel Kitsune, because why would Kiriko ever have a bad trait? Symmetra's teleporters can teleport pretty much any thrown deployable or entity, which includes her turrets, Torb turrets, and of course Diva bombs, which let you get funny kills like this. Whenever Torbjorn actually presses his overload, or which is E, whatever you want to call it, he actually reloads 6 bullets, which can get you tons of kills that you might not have ever gotten otherwise. Also, whoever you shoot on Torbjorn, your turret will actually follow onto the same target. At least most of the time it does. You can see it does it here the first time, but for some reason it doesn't want to go back to Bastion. This seems to be a bug. It normally does follow whoever you shoot in-game, like 99% of the time. If anyone knows what's going on here, please do leave a comment below. I'm quite curious. Tracer has quite a lot of tech to her, of course. One of the more basic ones, though, is that your recall actually reloads your weapons for you. So you can see when I press recall right here, it actually brings me back to 40 ammo, even though I would have had it at the time of the recall. Also, her blinks and everything else cancel out each other, so you can melee and then blink, and it'll actually transfer it to get you kills that you wouldn't otherwise. On Widowmaker, whenever you grapple hook normally, it just brings you up like this, but if you press spacebar right as you reach your destination, you'll just go flying, which is how most Widows hit those crazy trick shots like this onto random people. Ana's unscoped shots are projectiles, while her scoped-in shots are hit scan. What this means is that her scoped-in shots will heal quicker than her unscoped shots, which can be super clutch at the right times. On Baptiste, your immortality actually goes through both enemy and friendly shields, which you can use with Mauga's cage like this to make your immort unbreakable for the enemy team and make anyone in the cage instantly win the fight. Now, this obviously doesn't work as well when it's the enemy cage or any type of enemy shield. Even though the immort still does work, they can just break it because it's just there on their screen behind their shield, which they're able to shoot through. So do try to keep that in mind. Even though this doesn't make sense in Overwatch 2, Brig can counterpin both Reinhardt and Doomfist with her shield bash, which stuns both of them, which generally on Brig, if you do this at the right places, will get you a lot of value. It works like that because of Overwatch 1 mechanics that just don't exist anymore, so it's very confusing why this still exists. With Illari, every time you use your left shift, you can actually jump right as you land to do one bunny hop and maintain your momentum, as you can see right here. Every time Juno wants to use her auto-aim thing, she has to confirm it to actually fire the weapon, but you can actually change this in hero settings. If you go to Juno's hero settings, then hero and HUD, and then toggle off, toggle pulsar torpedoes, it'll actually automatically fire as soon as you stop holding the button for the ability, which just lets you get a lot of kills that you might not have gotten otherwise by just instantly shooting when you're locked in. Kiriko's Suzu not only makes people immortal and gives them healing, it also makes them intangible, which means characters can go through you, which is useful for Rein and Doomfist. Lifeweaver's petals and pulls stop tons of different ults, such as pedaling people out of Zarya grab, pedaling the Orisa above everyone else so that her ult no longer hits anybody. You can pull people out of pretty much every ult, including pulling people directly out of Sigma ults, which is super dumb, but that's a thing. You can also pull people out of Mauga's cage, out of Zarya grabs, anything like that. And also, pull makes the person you're pulling immortal while they're getting pulled, so you can save them from stuff like pulse bomb, but be careful not to actually bring the pulse bomb with them, so that you die. There's also a super goofy tech where if you use any movement stopping ability, such as Shatter, Pin, McCree's Roll, you can actually cancel the pull as you're getting pulled to get tons of height and speed. Lucio's wall rides are actually affected by where he looks, so if you look up, you'll go higher. If you look down, you'll go faster but less far. And if you look in the middle, you'll do a nice little mix of both. It's also worth noting that holding a wall ride is way slower than repeatedly just lightly tapping the wall. Like, you literally want to be spamming the spacebar when you're wall riding to just tap it for like a single frame. And that way you can just gain tons and tons of speed because holding wall ride will cap your speed. We all know that Mercy, when she's flying to someone, can press spacebar to fly past them, but she can also press crouch to fly directly up in the middle of her flight, and just like with the spacebar, the longer that meter charges, the higher she will go, which is just super useful, and it's the main kind of form mobility most Mercy players use to survive 99% of the time, although it's definitely good to use a mix of both. Just like Soujorn, Moira will get more height when fading if you jump, and then as you're falling, go and fade and then jump again. As you can see right here, trying to jump from a standstill fade just doesn't get me quite the same height as jumping, falling, and then jumping again, which is super useful for just getting out of a lot of situations on Moira. Zenyatta's right clicks are super loud and take super long even if there's no one around, and to cancel them, all you have to do is melee. If you quick melee, it'll cancel it, just like that. Zen also has a way of firing a bit faster, which is with his Discord or Healing Orb in between, where if you shoot, then use one of the orbs and then shoot again, you can shoot a little bit quicker to do a little bit more burst damage, which is mainly used with the Discord Orb, like so. Where you can see I shot a little bit faster compared to just his normal fire, and I also applied an orb in between for no cost. With that being said, I hope you found my little send-off video for Overwatch useful. This is a lot of the hidden tech, obviously not all of it, but a lot of the bigger hidden techs for each hero that I've learned over the years after playing this game for quite a lot. I do know it was very quick, so if any of it didn't make sense to you, do feel free to leave a comment below, and if I still remember the answer to your question, I'll try to answer it and help you out. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.